The three divine delays that decide your destiny. Listen carefully. There are moments in life where nothing is wrong, yet nothing moves. You're praying, you're trying, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and still nothing changes. That's not failure. That's delay. Ancient wisdom reveals something most people never realize. Destiny doesn't arrive late. It arrives only after 3 delays. Miss them, and you sabotage what was meant for you. Rush them, and you collapse under what you weren't ready to carry. And here's the unsettling truth. Most people quit during the second delay, right before everything shifts. If you've ever wondered why your life feels paused, while others move forward, stay with me. Because once you recognize which delay you're in, you stop fighting time and start moving with it. There is a question people ask quietly, often late at night, when no one else is listening. Not out loud, not in public, only in the private spaces of the heart. Why does it take so long? Not why faith is hard, not why life is painful, but why progress feels delayed, even when effort is sincere and intention is pure. Ancient wisdom takes this question seriously. It does not dismiss it. It does not shame it. It does not answer it quickly. Instead, it points to a pattern so consistent that once you see it, you can never unsee it again. The delay that appears before everything important, across ancient stories, across generations, across cultures and faith traditions. One truth keeps repeating. Nothing meaningful arrives immediately. Not wisdom, not strength, not purpose, not destiny. Everything significant passes through delay, and this is where confusion begins. Because delay looks like failure. When you don't understand its role, it feels like rejection. It feels like being overlooked. It feels like a closed door that refuses to open. But ancient teachers insisted that delay is not the absence of movement. It is movement in a direction you cannot see yet. Why most people misunderstand delay? Modern thinking treats delay as a problem. Something to fix. Something to eliminate. Something to work around. We assume speed means blessing, and slowness means resistance. But ancient wisdom turns that assumption upside down. It teaches that speed is dangerous, when character cannot keep up, and delay exists for one reason: to prevent collapse. Because destiny without preparation does not elevate, it destroys. The 3 delays that appear again and again. Ancient teachers noticed something striking. Delay does not appear randomly. It appears in stages. 3 distinct delays, each with a different purpose, each shaping a different part of the soul. These delays do not exist to test your patience. They exist to prepare you for wait, because what is coming will require strength you do not yet possess, and without these delays, that strength never forms. Why destiny is not given all at once. There is a dangerous myth that destiny is a single moment, one breakthrough, one opportunity, one turning point. Ancient wisdom rejects this idea completely. Destiny is not a moment. It is a capacity, and capacity must be built. Slowly, intentionally, often painfully. Delay is the workshop, where that capacity is formed. The first sign you are in a divine delay. Ancient writings describe a common experience. You are doing the right things. You are staying consistent. You are showing up. But nothing is changing, not outwardly, and that creates an unsettling tension. Because effort without progress feels pointless. This is usually the first delay, the delay where action exists, but movement does not. And this is where many people panic. They assume something is wrong. But ancient wisdom says something else. This is exactly where formation begins. Why delay often feels unfair? Delay feels unfair because comparison enters the picture. You see others advancing, others progressing, others receiving answers. And the question forms naturally. Why them and not me? Ancient teachers warned. That comparison is most dangerous during seasons of delay. Because comparison convinces you that delay is personal, that you are being singled out. But delay is not personal. It is purposeful. And its purpose has nothing to do with favoritism. It has everything to do with readiness. The cost of skipping delay. Ancient wisdom does not romanticize delay. It does not pretend delay is pleasant. But it does issue a warning. Those who bypass delay pay for it later, in instability, in burnout, in collapse. What delay builds slowly, life will demand suddenly. And if that foundation is missing, pressure exposes it immediately. This is why ancient teachers said, what matures in silence stands firm in storms. Why some people seem to move faster. Here is the truth. That is uncomfortable but important. Not everyone is being prepared for the same weight. Some paths are lighter, some responsibilities smaller, some destinies narrower. Speed is not proof of significance. Often the heaviest callings move the slowest because they require the deepest roots. And roots grow downward, long before anything grows upward. The dangerous response to delay. There is a response to delay that ancient wisdom warns against strongly. Forcing progress. Trying to push doors open before alignment exists. Trying to accelerate timing through sheer effort. This always creates consequences because forced movement does not produce sustainable outcomes. Delay is not something you overcome with intensity. It is something you move through with endurance. The invisible question. Delay is asking you. Delay always asks one question. Not verbally, not directly, but unmistakably. Who are you becoming? While you wait. Not what are you achieving. Not what are you receiving. Who are you becoming? Because the person you become during delay determines how you handle what comes next. Why most people never reach the second delay. Ancient teachers observed that many people never make it past the first delay. Not because they fail morally, but because they grow impatient. They abandon consistency. They change direction too often. They lose focus. They mistake delay for redirection. And in doing so, they restart the process repeatedly. This creates the illusion of movement. While staying in the same place, delay requires stillness as much as effort. The beginning of clarity. If you are listening to this and recognizing your season, there is something important to understand. Delay does not mean you are behind. It often means you are early. Early enough. That preparation must catch up. Ancient wisdom says, those who learn to wait well learn to lead well later. Because patience trains perception. You begin to notice what matters. You stop chasing what doesn't. And this is where the first delay begins to do its work. Hold this before moving forward. Everything that follows depends on understanding this truth. Delay is not the enemy of destiny. It is the architect of it. And this is only the beginning, because the first delay is not the hardest one. The second delay is where confusion replaces clarity. And the third delay is where most people quit, right before everything changes. The first delay is rarely recognized for what it is. It feels ordinary, unremarkable, almost boring. Nothing dramatic happens here. And that is precisely why most people misunderstand it. Ancient wisdom calls this delay the season of preparation. Not because you are unready in skill, but because you are untested in wait. Why preparation comes before permission. Preparation is the delay where permission is withheld. You want access. You want movement. You want progress. But access is not given yet. Ancient teachers believed that access without preparation creates entitlement, and entitlement destroys humility. So preparation comes first, quietly, relentlessly, often invisibly. What preparation actually builds? Most people assume preparation builds competence, skills, knowledge, experience. Ancient wisdom says that is secondary. Preparation primarily builds restraint, the ability to wait without becoming bitter, the ability to work without being seen, the ability to remain faithful without feedback. These qualities cannot be taught quickly. They must be lived. Why this delay feels like wasted time? The preparation delay feels like wasted time because there are no markers of success, no applause, no promotion, no confirmation, just repetition, showing up again, doing the same thing again, trusting again. And modern thinking struggles with repetition. We want novelty. We want progress signals. But ancient wisdom says repetition is how strength is formed. Muscles grow this way. Character grows this way. Faith grows this way. The dangerous thought that arises here, during preparation, a specific thought appears. Sounds logical. I already know this. I've done this before. I'm capable of more. And maybe you are. But ancient teachers warned that capability is not readiness. Readiness includes patience, and patience is often the missing piece. Why preparation often happens in obscurity? Preparation usually happens where no one is watching, in places that feel small, in roles that feel insignificant. Ancient wisdom insists this is intentional, because obscurity protects integrity. When no one is watching, motives are exposed. You discover whether you are committed to purpose or to recognition. This delay removes the audience, so your foundation can be tested honestly. The quiet shaping of identity. Preparation reshapes identity subtly. You stop defining yourself by outcomes. You begin defining yourself by consistency. I show up. I remain faithful. I do the work. This identity shift is critical because destiny amplifies identity. Whatever you are becoming now will be multiplied later. Preparation ensures that what is multiplied does not destroy you. Why others seem to advance while you wait. This delay is especially painful because comparison intensifies. You see others moving forward, new opportunities, visible progress, external affirmation. And the question returns, why not me? Ancient wisdom responds gently but firmly. Preparation is not equal for everyone. Some are being prepared for influence, others for endurance, others for leadership, others for responsibility. The longer the preparation, the heavier the assignment. The role of silence in preparation. Silence is a companion to preparation, not because answers are withheld maliciously, but because noise would interfere. Preparation requires focus. Too much affirmation creates distraction. Too many answers short-circuit discovery. So silence stays, and in that silence, you learn to listen differently, not for instructions, for alignment. What you learn about yourself here, preparation reveals habits, how you respond to delay, how you handle monotony, how you treat small responsibilities. Ancient teachers believed these small behaviors predict future collapse or stability. Preparation exposes impatience early, so it does not sabotage later success. Why preparation is often lonely. Loneliness is common in this delay, not because people leave, but because experience becomes hard to explain. You are not struggling, but you are not advancing either. You are simply waiting. And waiting is uncomfortable to describe, so you carry it quietly. Ancient wisdom considers this solitude a necessary refinement. It forces self-honesty. The temptation to rush this stage. There is a temptation to rush preparation, to seek shortcuts, to force doors open. Ancient wisdom warns strongly here. What you rush through will require revisiting later. Preparation cannot be skipped, only postponed. And postponed preparation is always more painful. The moment preparation begins to change you. At some point, something shifts. You stop counting time. You stop measuring progress daily. You settle into steadiness, not resignation, acceptance. I will do what is in front of me well. This is the moment preparation begins to complete its work. Because now your peace is no longer tied to movement. Why this delay is the foundation of everything. Ancient teachers were clear. If preparation is shallow, everything built on it will be unstable. If preparation is deep, everything that follows becomes lighter. Pressure does not crush prepared people. It reveals them. Preparation creates inner margin, space to respond wisely, strength to carry responsibility, stability to lead without panic. The quiet signal that preparation is ending. Preparation does not end dramatically. There is no announcement, no sudden shift. Instead, readiness appears internally. You feel less reactive, less anxious, less rushed. You are no longer trying to prove yourself. And ancient wisdom says, this internal change is the true signal, because once preparation has done its work, delay changes its purpose, and the second delay begins. Hold this before moving on. If you are in preparation right now, nothing is being wasted. Nothing is being ignored. This is the delay that determines how much weight you can carry without breaking, and what comes next will require far more strength than you currently realize. The second delay is not quiet like the first. It is confusing, unsettling, and often emotionally exhausting. If the first delay tests endurance, the second delay tests direction. This is the delay where effort increases, but clarity decreases, where movement feels possible. But nothing seems to line up. Ancient wisdom calls this the delay of alignment. Why alignment comes after preparation. Preparation builds strength. Alignment determines direction. Without alignment, strength becomes dangerous, because strength applied in the wrong direction does not produce fulfillment. It produces exhaustion. Ancient teachers insisted that it is better to wait than to move misaligned, because misalignment multiplies effort while reducing impact. How alignment delay feels from the inside. Alignment delay feels like mixed signals. Opportunities appear, then disappear. Doors open slightly, then close again. Paths seem promising, and suddenly feel wrong. This creates internal tension, because you are capable now. prepared, ready, yet still waiting. And that waiting feels irrational. The frustrating question that emerges here, during this delay, a new question forms. Not why am I waiting, but what am I supposed to choose? Because options exist now. Possibilities are visible. And ancient wisdom warns that this is a dangerous moment because readiness can tempt you to choose prematurely. Why good options can still be wrong. Alignment delay reveals a painful truth. Not every good opportunity is the right one. Some paths look productive, but lead away from purpose. Some doors open because they can, not because they should. Ancient teachers taught that alignment is not about activity. It is about agreement, inner agreement, timing agreement, purpose agreement. When those are missing, movement creates friction. The internal conflict of this delay. Alignment delay is where internal conflict intensifies. You want to move forward, but something inside resists. Not fear, not laziness, discomfort, a subtle sense of not yet. Ancient wisdom says, this internal resistance is not weakness. It is discernment developing. Why silence returns during alignment? Many people are surprised. That silence returns here, after preparation, after endurance, after growth. But alignment requires quiet, because noise confuses intuition. Too many opinions distort judgment. So silence returns, to refine listening, not for instructions, for alignment. The role of disappointment in alignment. Disappointment often appears in this delay. Plans fall through, expectations fail, momentum stalls unexpectedly. Ancient teachers believed disappointment was a filtering mechanism. It removes attachment to outcomes that would derail destiny. Disappointment narrows focus. It eliminates distractions. Why this delay feels like going backward. Alignment delay can feel like regression. After all the preparation, movement slows again, sometimes more than before. This feels cruel, unfair, but ancient wisdom offers perspective. You are not going backward. You are being repositioned, and repositioning requires stopping. The subtle shift alignment demands. Alignment requires surrender of personal timelines, not goals, timelines. This is difficult because preparation built confidence. Confidence wants movement. Alignment demands patience. Patience tempers confidence into wisdom. Without this delay, confidence becomes recklessness. Why others don't understand this stage from the outside. Alignment delay looks indecisive. People may say, just choose something. Stop overthinking. You're ready already. But ancient wisdom insists that readiness without alignment creates regret, and regret costs more time than waiting. The dangerous urge to force clarity. During alignment delay, there is an urge to force clarity, to demand certainty, to push decisions. Ancient teachers warn strongly here. Forced clarity produces false peace. It feels relieving at first, but it collapses later. True alignment does not rush. It settles. What alignment is actually adjusting? Alignment adjusts three things: direction, timing, identity. Direction ensures you move correctly. Timing ensures movement lasts. Identity ensures you survive success. All three must agree, and agreement takes time. The moment alignment begins to form, alignment begins subtly. You feel less drawn to certain options, not because they are bad, but because they are incomplete. At the same time, one direction remains quietly present, not urgent, not loud, but consistent. Ancient wisdom says this quiet persistence is a key signal. Why this delay tests trust more than faith. Preparation tests endurance. Alignment tests trust. Trust that waiting is not wasting. Trust that clarity will arrive. Trust that choosing later is better than choosing early. This delay asks you to trust timing even when logic argues otherwise. The cost of misalignment. Ancient teachers did not sugarcoat this. Misalignment leads to burnout because energy is spent correcting course repeatedly. It leads to frustration because effort never feels rewarded. And eventually, it leads to disillusionment. Alignment prevents this outcome. Delay protects you from unnecessary struggle. The signal that alignment is nearly complete. Alignment completes internally. Before it shows externally, you feel calmer, less reactive, less desperate to decide. Urgency fades. Clarity increases quietly. You are no longer searching. You are waiting, and waiting now feels purposeful. The transition to the final delay. Once alignment settles, movement becomes inevitable. But ancient wisdom warns, the final delay is the most dangerous one because it appears when everything is ready. Preparation complete. Alignment achieved. And yet, still waiting. This is the delay where most people quit, not because they are weak, but because they believe nothing else could be required. Hold this before moving forward. If you are in alignment delay right now, confused, tired of choosing, unsure which step matters, you are not lost. You are being positioned, and what comes next will demand a kind of courage that preparation and alignment were quietly building all along. The third delay is the most misunderstood of all, because by the time you reach it, everything appears ready. Preparation is complete. Alignment has settled. Clarity has arrived. And yet, movement still does not happen. This is the delay that breaks people, not because it is difficult, but because it feels unnecessary. Ancient wisdom calls this the delay of readiness. Why readiness is not the same as ability. Ability is visible. Readiness is not. You may have skill, experience, confidence, but readiness is deeper than competence. Readiness answers a different question. Can you carry what is coming without losing who you are? Ancient teachers believed this delay exists to answer that question. Why this delay feels cruel. The readiness delay often arrives after a long journey. You are tired, not weak, just weary. You have waited, prepared, realigned your life. And now, with everything in place, delay remains. This creates a dangerous emotional state, hope mixed with exhaustion, and that mixture makes people vulnerable. The subtle lie that appears here. During this delay, a quiet lie surfaces. It sounds reasonable. If this was meant to happen, it would have happened by now. This thought is deadly because it assumes timing is proof of intention. Ancient wisdom rejects this completely. Timing is not evidence of absence. It is evidence of precision. Why most people quit here? Ancient teachers observed that most people quit, not at the beginning, but at the edge, right before movement, because disappointment at this stage feels personal. You interpret delay as rejection. You internalize silence. You stop leaning forward, and quitting here looks like peace, but it is actually resignation. The difference between rest and withdrawal. This delay demands discernment. There is a difference between resting and withdrawing. Rest restores readiness. Withdrawal abandons expectation. Ancient wisdom warns that many people confuse the two here. They tell themselves they are letting go, but what they are really doing is stepping back emotionally. And emotional withdrawal is the quiet end of destiny. Why readiness has nothing to do with excitement. Readiness does not feel exhilarating. It feels calm, steady, grounded. Excitement is emotional energy. Readiness is emotional stability. Ancient teachers insisted that destiny requires stability more than enthusiasm. Because enthusiasm burns fast, stability endures. What readiness is actually testing? This delay tests one thing above all else: motivation. Why do you want what you are waiting for? For recognition? For validation? For relief? Or for responsibility? Readiness exposes motivation, because destiny magnifies motive. What you pursue for the wrong reason will eventually turn against you. Why silence returns one last time. Many people are shocked when silence returns here. After clarity, after alignment. But this silence is different. It is not forming you. It is observing you. Ancient wisdom describes this as a watching silence. Not absence, attention. Silence stays to see whether you will remain steady, without reassurance. The internal shift that signals readiness. There is a subtle internal change that signals readiness. You stop asking, when will this happen? You start asking, how will I steward it well? Focus shifts from arrival to responsibility, from desire to duty, ancient teachers said. This shift was essential because destiny is not about arrival. It is about stewardship. Why this delay feels heavier than the others. Preparation was slow. Alignment was confusing. Readiness is heavy, Bo, because now you understand what is at stake. You see the cost, the responsibility, the weight of influence, and that awareness creates gravity. Ancient wisdom says, this gravity is necessary. It anchors you. The dangerous temptation to settle. During readiness delay, settling becomes tempting. You are tired of waiting, so you lower expectations. You convince yourself that what you have is enough. Enough comfort, enough peace, enough stability. Ancient teachers warn strongly here. Settling is not contentment. It is fear disguised as wisdom. Why readiness is the last filter. Readiness is the final filter. Before destiny releases. Not because heaven doubts you, but because what is coming cannot be undone. Once influence increases, there is no rehearsal. Once responsibility expands, there is no reset. So readiness asks, will you remain grounded when everything accelerates? The quiet decision that changes everything. At some point in this delay, a quiet decision forms. Not dramatic, not emotional, simple. I will remain faithful, whether this happens or not. This decision is powerful because it removes desperation. And desperation disqualifies people more than failure ever does. Why this decision matters more than talent. Talent attracts opportunity. Character sustains it. Readiness is where character is confirmed. Ancient teachers believed that destiny is released when attachment loosens, when you no longer need the outcome to validate your worth. This freedom signals readiness. The moment most people misinterpret. Here's the paradox. The moment readiness is complete, waiting often feels longest. Not because delay increases, but because anticipation fades. You are no longer anxious, no longer striving. And ancient wisdom says, this is the final sign, because calm does not come from certainty. It comes from trust. Why movement follows readiness quickly? Once readiness is confirmed, movement often accelerates. Doors open rapidly. Timing aligns unexpectedly. What once resisted now cooperates. Ancient teachers warn, this speed can be shocking. That is why readiness matters. Without it, acceleration overwhelms. Hold this before the final resolution. If you feel like you are at the edge, prepared, aligned, tired of waiting, do not misread this moment. This delay is not denial. It is confirmation. And what follows will require everything. These delays were building at some point, after preparation, after alignment, after readiness. A realization arrives quietly, not all at once, not dramatically, but unmistakably. Delay was never the obstacle. Misunderstanding delay was. The question that changes everything. The most important question is not, when will this end? It is, which delay am I in right now? Because each delay requires a different response, and responding incorrectly extends the delay unnecessarily. Ancient wisdom insisted that clarity shortens waiting, not because timing bends, but because resistance dissolves. How to recognize delay number 1, preparation. You are in preparation if you are doing the right things, but nothing is changing outwardly. Consistency is required. Repetition is unavoidable. Visibility is low. You feel capable, but underutilized. This delay asks for faithfulness, not creativity. Your role here is simple, but not easy. Show up. Remain steady. Do not despise small responsibilities. Preparation ends when identity stabilizes. What extends preparation unnecessarily? Preparation lasts longer when you chase recognition. You resent obscurity. You constantly look for exits. Ancient wisdom is blunt here. If you cannot steward little well, you will not steward much wisely. Preparation is not punishment. It is permission being built slowly. How to recognize delay number 2, alignment. You are in alignment. Options exist, but none feel settled. You feel ready to move, yet unsure where. Good opportunities feel incomplete. This delay is confusing, because movement seems possible, but clarity resists pressure. Your role here is restraint. Do not force decisions. Do not rush clarity. Do not mistake urgency for guidance. Alignment ends when direction and peace agree. What extends alignment unnecessarily? Alignment lasts longer when you choose based on fear. You prioritize speed over fit. You confuse good with right. Ancient wisdom teaches that alignment cannot be negotiated. It must be discerned. Choosing early costs more than waiting longer. How to recognize delay number 3, readiness. You are in readiness if you know what you are meant to do. You feel prepared. You feel aligned. Yet movement still hasn't come. This delay feels personal because expectation is high and waiting feels unjustified. Your role here is surrender. Not surrender of purpose, but surrender of control. Readiness ends when attachment releases. What extends readiness unnecessarily? Readiness lasts longer when You need the outcome to feel complete. You tie identity to arrival. You confuse desire with entitlement. Ancient wisdom is clear. Destiny is released when desperation disappears, because desperation corrupts stewardship. Why delay always ends suddenly? Here is a pattern ancient teachers noticed repeatedly. Delay does not end gradually. It ends decisively. Not because circumstances slowly improve, but because readiness suddenly exists. Once the internal work is complete, external resistance collapses quickly. That is why breakthroughs feel abrupt. The preparation was invisible. The release is not. The moment you stop waiting for signs, the turning point in every delay is the same. You stop waiting for confirmation, not because you've given up, but because you've grown stable. Your peace no longer depends on movement. Your faith no longer depends on reassurance. And ancient wisdom says, this is the moment. Movement becomes safe. Why some people miss their release? This truth is difficult but necessary. Some people finish preparation, but quit during alignment. Others complete alignment, but settle during readiness. Not because they lack faith, but because fatigue convinces them that waiting is pointless. Ancient wisdom does not judge this. It mourns it, because proximity to destiny does not guarantee arrival. Only endurance does. The final shift delay produces. When delay finishes its work, something irreversible happens. You become unshakable. Not arrogant, not hardened, anchored. You no longer chase outcomes. You steward opportunities. You no longer fear silence. You understand it. You no longer panic at delay. You recognize it. This is what delay was producing all along. Why delay was never about time? Delay was never about timing. It was about transformation. Timing adjusts automatically. Once transformation is complete, ancient wisdom insists, heaven does not delay destiny. It delays the version of you that would be destroyed by it. A personal word to the listener. If you are listening to this and feel exhausted by waiting, you are not forgotten. You are not stalled. You are not late. You are being shaped for something that requires more strength than you currently see. And that shaping is nearing completion. The quiet confidence that follows. When delay finishes, confidence returns differently. Not loud, not urgent, calm. You stop announcing plans. You stop explaining yourself. You move when movement comes. And when it does, it fits. Why this changes how you wait forever? Once you understand delay, future waiting seasons lose their power. You no longer panic. You ask better questions. What is this delay forming? What is being adjusted? What is being protected? Delay becomes information, not punishment. The bridge to what comes next. And this leads us to the next truth. Delay shapes destiny. But after delay comes testing, because what is built in silence is tested in exposure. Ancient wisdom speaks next, about the moment faith is meant to fail, and why some rise, while others retreat. That story comes next. If this chapter clarified your season, stay. The journey continues. Because understanding delay is only the beginning. What comes after delay reveals who you truly are before you move on. If this chapter helped you understand why waiting has felt so heavy and why delay has shaped you more than you realized, pause for a moment. Because understanding delay changes how you carry what comes next. If this message added clarity to your journey, take a second to like this video. It quietly helps this message reach others who are still waiting in silence. If you're new here, subscribe to the Soul Spire. This channel exists for people who don't want noise, but meaning, depth, and truth. And remember, this journey is not finished. After silence, after delay, comes the moment faith feels like it might fail. That moment decides who rises and who quietly retreats. Chapter 3 is next. The moment faith is meant to fail. Watch it in order. Story only makes sense when the pieces stay together. Stay steady. Stay grounded. Delay never came to stop you. It came to shape you.